Hello everybody. I wanted just to do a quick video for you guys on how to use the private label leads scorecard assessment form. So each page of the assessment is for a different section or assessment dealing with doing private label leads selling. So for example, the first one here is selling on Amazon, and each page will have a different section or an area of assessment that we'll be focusing on. There will be for each of them 4 different descriptions within that assessment. And what you want to do is read each of the descriptions, then pick only one of the 4 descriptions that best describes your current position. So as I show here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 descriptions. You would read through those and you would try to assess where do you fit on this scale. These are subjective, so there's not a true quantitative or an absolute right answer. It's just where do you feel that you fit based on the specific questions that are being asked. Then for each description, you want to estimate the numbers where you think your experience level is for that area. So let me give you an example to help clarify that somewhat. If you read through all of these questions and you felt the second description fits you best, that you have an understanding of how to sell on Amazon, but maybe you don't have the confidence in your abilities to do it successfully. So as you read through all of these, you came up that one fit the best. And normally the way this also goes is at the very top is the least experience, if you will, and then as you go down the areas that are there, the more involved or in-depth knowledge that you would have in that particular assessment section, like selling on Amazon. What you would do then is, if you've looked at number 2 here, or the second one, if you feel within that description that you're not very confident within that area, then you would choose 4 as the number that you would select. If you feel in that question that you're pretty confident that you're okay to be able to sell on Amazon and your confidence is reasonably well, then choose 5. And then if you felt I'm not super confident, but I have a reasonable level of confidence, it's just a relative sense of within that section, which one should I select? It's a little range there, 4, 5, or 6. Then what you want to do is take whatever that score is and put that number at the bottom here for this particular section, which is selling on Amazon. There's several different sections. So on this particular page, you would only pick a number 1 through 12. It would be one of that range and it'll fit into whatever that description is. So hopefully that's relatively clear on that. So each section you'll have a number between 1 and 12. So the lowest that you would have is 1 for each section, and there's 4 sections, so that would give you a total score of 4. Or the best that you would have is a 12 on each of those sections, and then therefore the score, your total score, would be 48 at the end. When you get to this page, you would have filled out all of the other sections and have a score for each section. So when you get to this page, then you want to add up the score of all of those individual sections and enter the total here. Based on that total score, then you want to come down to the recommendations section, and depending on what your score is, the recommendation would be that you would do option 1 minimally and consider option 2. You can also use your range within that score to make that decision on whether you should take option 1 or option 2. If you're on the lower end of the score, option 1 definitely would make more sense. If you're on the higher end, then maybe option 2 versus option 1. So for example, if your total score was 20, then the recommendation is you would do option 1, which is a free private label leads bootcamp training that I do that goes over the process of how to select private label leads. You can also consider taking the course that I have that goes more in depth of the boot camp training, and it's an over-the-shoulder view of my exact process of all of the steps that I actually go through. So it's much more in depth, a much deeper dive, much more detail in the course than I do in the boot camp training. So just a quick overview of the options that are here. The boot camp training is just how to come up with ideas for private label leads. And I go over the process that I teach in the course, but it's at a higher level. I also have a free or paid newsletter that's available. And what I do in these is provide free leads on a weekly basis, or for paid, give you monthly keywords that have been validated at a relatively high level, but there's some validation there that allows you to use that to consider verifications for a private label product. The course, like I said, is an over-the-shoulder view. I also have a done-for-you process where instead of you doing the steps in the course, I do all of the work for you and provide you with the data leads and all of the data associated with it, which takes into account both the verification of the private label lead idea to make sure there's an opportunity for it to be successful, and the budget required to launch and profitability moving forward with that product. And then lastly, I have coaching and consulting if you're really at a point where you really need to go to the next steps. You're ready to actually launch your product, all of the processes associated with that. So hopefully that is helpful. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we'll be glad to help.